Hi, welcome back. We're on Chapter 3 of Magic Treehouse, Leprechaun in Late Winter. Chapter 3, Miss Augusta. Jack and Annie looked at each other. Augusta. The girl put down her baskets and took off her wet cape. Did you deliver your cakes to the poor, Miss Augusta? Asked Molly. Yes, Molly, said Augusta. I visited 7 cottages today. 7? In this weather? You're an angel, Miss Augusta, said Molly. Always so kind to the poor. It is my duty, Molly, the girl said, to help those less fortunate than myself. Her gaze rested on Jack and Annie. And who are these poor children? They're looking for work, miss, said the cook, but I'm afraid they're sorry creatures, not good for anything. I was just sending them away. Oh, surely we must not turn them out so quickly, cook, said Augusta. How tired and miserable they look. Jack didn't think they looked that bad. We are tired and miserable, Annie said. Her voice sounded sad. Her shoulders sagged. Oh, brother, Jack thought. Annie was really acting her part. My poor dears, you must both come into the parlor and rest a bit, said Augusta. We would like that, Annie said pitifully. Follow me, said Augusta. Miss Augusta, surely you're not taking those dirty children into the parlor, said the cook. We must always be kind to the poor, cook, no matter how dirty they are, said Augusta. We should give them something to drink if they are thirsty, and something to eat if they are hungry. You are too kind, Miss Augusta, said Molly, shaking her head. Well, at least make them take off their filthy boots, said the cook. Jack and Annie pulled off their boots and socks and set them by the door. Their feet were red and raw-looking. Augusta took 2 peeled potatoes from a bowl and put them in her pocket. Then she picked up a lit candle from the hearth. Come, let me take you to the parlor, she said to Jack and Annie. Thanks, Augusta, said Annie. Show some respect, the cook called after Annie. Call her Miss Augusta. Sorry, said Annie. Thanks, Miss Augusta. Jack rolled his eyes. Why should he call her Miss? Augusta didn't look like she was any older than he was. Holding her flickering candle, Augusta led Jack and Annie out of the kitchen. The wooden floor creaked as they walked barefoot through a narrow hallway. How are we ever going to inspire this strange, serious girl, wondered Jack. She acts as if she's already a grown-up and treats Annie and me like babies. We'll sit in here, children, said Augusta. She directed Jack and Annie into a large room with heavy curtains and dark furniture. The pale teenage girl who'd answered the front door sat on a sofa knitting. Another teenage girl knitted beside her. They scowled when they saw Jack and Annie. What are you doing, Augusta? Asked the pale girl. Why are you bringing those 2 into the parlor? I invited them to tea, Gertrude, said Augusta. She turned to Jack and Annie. Pay no attention to my sisters. Please sit down. Augusta, have you gone mad? Said Gertrude. You cannot invite these 2 ragamuffins to sit in here. Mother will be furious, said Augusta's other sister. They're filthy. They're not even wearing shoes. Jack looked down at his muddy clothes and cold red feet. Cook made them remove their muddy shoes in the kitchen, Eliza, Augusta said. I only wish I had nice dry shoes to give them. Sit down, children, she said to Jack and Annie again. Jack and Annie slowly sat down. You're going to get into trouble, Augusta, said Gertrude. Mother will never approve, said Eliza. Both sisters shook their heads as they went back to their knitting. Augusta ignored her sisters and walked to a silver teapot on a sideboard. Would you like some hot tea, my poor dears? She asked Jack and Annie. Yes, Miss Augusta, said Annie. Jack nodded. Hot tea sounded good. He still felt chilled from the cold wind and rain. There was a fireplace in the dreary parlor, but no fire was lit. Everything in the room seemed dark and gloomy, except for a few books on a table. As Augusta poured tea into fancy china cups, Jack leaned closer to get a look at the books. One was titled The Plays of William Shakespeare. Another was called The Tales of King Arthur. Jack smiled to himself. Seeing those book titles made him feel a little more comfortable. Augusta carried cups of tea to Jack and Annie. Then she pulled the potatoes out of her pocket and gave one to each of them. "Thank you, Miss Augusta," said Annie. Jack took a sip of tea, but it was too bitter and hot to drink. He took a bite of his cold potato, but it was too hard to chew. "So, Miss Augusta, what do you like to do around here?" Annie asked. "What inspires you?" Augusta looked puzzled. "I do not know what you mean," she said. "What about reading books?" said Jack. "Have you read those books?" He pointed to the Tales of the King Arthur and the Plays of William Shakespeare. "Those books belong to my brothers," said Augusta. "The time has not come for Augusta to read such books," said her sister Gertrude. "Not until she is older," said her other sister Eliza. "Why?" asked Jack. "Mother says the Tales of King Arthur and the Plays of Shakespeare are not for young ladies," said Augusta. "Really?" said Jack. "Yes, but I'm afraid I sometimes peek at my brother's books," Augusta said to Jack and Annie in a low voice. "I love stories. I remember every story I read or hear. "I love stories too," said Annie, "and I love books." The two older sisters smiled. "Keep striving, my dear," said Eliza. "Perhaps one day you will learn to read." "I already know how to read," said Annie. "Jack and I read lots of books." She pointed to the books on the table. "In fact, we know tons about King Arthur, and we go see plays by Shakespeare with our parents. And one time, we even acted in a play by Shakespeare, A Midsummer Night's Dream." "It was at our school," Jack broke in before Annie could tell them that she and Jack had actually met Shakespeare himself. "A Midsummer Night's Dream?" said Augusta. She looked surprised. "Don't listen to them, Augusta," said Gertrude. "I doubt these children have ever been to school, much less acted in a play by William Shakespeare." "I suspect you are quite right, Gertrude," someone said. A tall woman was standing in the doorway of the parlor. She wore a long black velvet dress and stood very straight. There was an icy look on her face as she stared at Jack and Annie. "Oh, Mother," said Eliza. That's the end of chapter 3. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Have a good day.